Picture this. You're at your parent-in-law's and you've bashed your head against promised console's radon for 4 hours. And then... Wait. Why do I have my PS4 with me at my parent-in-law's? Well, because... Shadow of the Erdtree, you know. It's not like you have 50 hours to spare in your day-to-day life. So, you're at your parent-in-law's and you've bashed your head against promised console's radon for 4 hours. And then, Death himself sits next to you. He gives you advice, teaches the right parry times, tells where the best loot is. Death's a nice guy when you get to know him. All throughout your solo co-op session, Death holds a delicate instrument in his hands, a sort of mixture between an hourglass and a book. Every once in a while, he taps the jaws of the weird instrument. The chime drowns the game's audio in ways you can't quite comprehend. And then, you see it. The sands slip away. Not just yours, everyone's. Your partner, her sister, their spouses, your parent-in-laws. They've so little left, and it all slips away. You see them a couple times a year, 5, 6 tops. How many times do you have left? How does that radon fight feel right about now? Is this one of those moments you want to flash through your eyes in your last moments? You lay in a hospital bed, all sorts of tubes and contraptions protrude your body. Someone takes your hand, you gasp your last breath and whisper, "My only regret is I didn't platinum Dark Souls 2. Behind Heidi's Tower of Flame lies the Shipwreck Cove, habitat of the Varangian warriors. I strive to present my thoughts in an eloquent and well-articulated manner, but this area sucks. In fact, most of Dark Souls 2 up to this point has sucked. Inside the ship, I get my ass handed to me by the flexile sentry. Perhaps I'm underleveled, spread my attributes too thin, or can't nail the timing windows. I give it a couple goes and just give up. The last time, I don't even put up a decent fight. The battle is lost long before my health reaches 0. I backtrack to challenge the pursuer. I don't have the patience to deal with the enemies and run past everyone. I arrive at the fog gate moments before the angry mob reaches me. The boss isn't difficult. I beat him on my second attempt. Few seconds after my victory, I get sucker punched with a Zweihander. All the enemies I ran past have lain in prowl, and they are after my head once again. I scrape through the mob with a sliver of health left. I sit by the bonfire and realize the Zweihander broke something within me fire can't mend. My bones no longer ache, my wounds are healed, but resolve has left me. Don't you dare to go hollow is the credo of both the fandom and the characters who soldier on this doomed world. A solemn reminder, even the most insurmountable challenges can be conquered with perseverance. For the first time, I struggle to find this will. This path has been but an unending gauntlet of massive mobs and ambushes curated so many could overflow the few. I don't sense challenge, but spite. I understand the language these games speak, their dialect is oh so familiar to me, and I know there are dark days ahead. The sun sets behind Majula as I stare at the flames in my digital refuge. I act before I realize a decision was made. I turn off the console and abandon my avatar into the darkened ruins. A boy climbs the rickety steps of a lighthouse. The bruises on his body ache, eyes prickle from tears. Nothing would be sweeter than to lay down and cry out for his sister, but she is away and will always be unless he keeps his pace. Moments that can't be but minutes stretch to hours. The sun sets and night draws near. No, the sun doesn't set, it just wanes, pales, and grows older. It happens as the boy reaches the top of the structure. The sun sighs and dies. The sky darkens and blackness swallows the lands. By unnatural laws that can't hold the scrutiny of logic, yet are clear as day to us, the boy is now somewhere else. His destination is within reach, just a small boat ride away. The sun, or the black monstrosity that devoured it just moments ago, pulsates. That's not right, the boy thinks, but now is not the time to wonder such trivialities as whether the sun has the decency to remain. The oars, the water, the silent sound of the waves, nothing else remains in his world. Light, dark, pull, rest, pull, rest. He doesn't notice the putrid smell that grows stronger with each pull, a foul scent that lingered everywhere in the village he passed earlier. The hairs on his neck erect as the thought forms in the back of his mind. How can he smell the village upwind? And then it happens. The stench rushes in. It drowns him in ways water never could. Someone sits behind him, but he dares not peek. In silence, the boy and Plague herself continue their journey. I love Scandinavian folklore, fairy tales and games thick with atmosphere. It's no wonder Bramble the Mountain King left an impression on me. All fairy tales were hardly just cutesy yarns to keep children and other gullibles docile, and Bramble shows just how serious we took these stories not so long ago. This game understands fairy tales, their heritage, the imagery, the macabre tones that lay underneath many of them. It's an evocative experience with but a single blemish. The game sucks. Bramble is a cinematic platformer, an umbrella term for janky controls and gameplay with heavy reliance on set pieces and sudden deaths. Lots and lots and lots of sudden deaths. Bramble marries platforming with shooting sections and dabbles even with stealth mechanics on occasion. In its finest hours, the gameplay is tolerable, almost non-intrusive. On its worst, well, From Software has over the years come up with a plethora of great ideas, and NeoWiz Games cherry-pick the best of them for Lies of P. Take all the elements that make FromSoft games so unique and mesh them into a new IP. Steampunk, a classic fairy tale, urban industrialism. It's brilliant as far as strategies go. Lies of P nips the fat away, tucks the excess. NeoWiz Games has transcended every gameplay escape of its inspirations through blatant imitation. And as I played through this trimmed and optimized Souls-like experience, I realized I don't enjoy these kinds of games at all. From Software is a master in creating awe, vistas upon vistas of the evocative, alien, yet somehow familiar. Adversaries that push you back pull you forward. There's a sense of awe and grandeur which can't be attributed to scale alone. How these games differ from dozens of similar clones, I can't tell. But Lies of P showed me FromSoft has achieved something which can't be replicated with rigorous adherence to familiar molds. This became clear to me as I drudged to the poisonous swamps, climbed rickety stairs, and failed to dodge projectiles that flung me back to those poisonous swamps. Teeth clenched, jaw locked. At the steps of the final dungeon, I realized I'd had enough. Dozen tries against the color swap boss with rage-inducing buffs made clear there's nothing for me here. A sudden Pinocchio feels like the perfect theme for this game. A display of masterful craftsmanship, a doll who wanted to be real, a wooden husk without a soul to call its own. Omori isn't a traditional JRPG. There is no archetypal hero, no corrupt empire, a world-devouring threat, nor a band of ragtag characters who set aside their differences so light may conquer dark. We have suburbs, emotional repression, estranged friendships, and children who cope with trauma. Omori is a traditional JRPG and follows the conventions of the genre with reverie. Turn-based combat, fixed parties, level-ups, unlockable skills, dungeons, boss battles, save points. Everything is coated with a whimsical veneer, but the heart of this experience is familiar. You kill cannon fodder, do fetch quests, move from one trophy scene to another. In eager anticipation, the game graciously decides to move forward. And Omori does deliver. It is a 15-hour joke with great jabs and an incredible punchline. But the wait does get arduous. Once you realize almost everything in the game is set up and has next to nothing to do with the narrative, you get impatient. Sudden spikes in difficulty irritate more than they should. Dungeons feel a tad too long. At one point, Omori just flat out halts your progress until you've collected enough letters around the game world. I had missed a couple, so this was but a mild inconvenience. But imagine you'd missed most of them due to negligence or not giving a damn. Now that's a nice slap in the face. But as the credits rolled, I was ready to proclaim Omori as one of the finest games I'd ever played. I'd forgotten most of the moment-to-moment gameplay was just fluff, padding I couldn't wait to be done with. A woman wanders through a desolate land, ashen huts, bodies on pikes, men, women, children. A shape flashes before her eyes as she hearkens to a corpse. Algis, the rune of great protection. She walks to a gate nearby and something happens. Through magical logic alien to us, yet self-evident to her, the gate unlocks and creaks open. She passes a thick arch and stops. The stone-hewn wall has disappeared. Her path is once again clear. Senua glances through a golden mask, and the storms around her settle. She finds herself in a still autumn breeze. The forest glistens in eerie lights. The trees hang with shards, pebbles, scraps of something luminous. From just the right angle, the shards form a pattern. Somewhere, another gate creaks open. Reality has broken, and Senua must find the right vantage point to create a new way forward. The Northmen who murdered her great love are not human. Not in the eyes of Senua. They are monsters. They apparate from thin air. Wave after wave of horrors block her path. But after the 8th shattered bridge, 3rd world lit aflame, 14th rune gate, 7th gauntlet, you're bound to ask yourself, what does this repetition bring to the table? Why was it necessary for Hellblade Senua's sacrifice to take these powerful moments and through repetition demote them into mere game mechanics? You'll come across an orphanage not far into your journey, or a mound of dirt where the children sit and an elderly man watches. One of the boys plays with matches and against better judgment manages to set something on fire. The man asks you to throw water on the flames from the nearby can. You do as you're told and... You fetch the water and douse the flames. Nothing remains but sad piles of ash. This is the second most tragic thing that has ever happened to me, the man whispers. Lisa the Painful and its standalone epilogue, Lisa the Joyful, are one of the funniest, sharpest and most heart-wrenching pair of games I've come across. They're also impossible to recommend to anyone. Lisa is a very specific experience, and I'm not sure the experience is all that great. These games don't want you to enjoy them. They oppose the notion with violent fervor. They're not only difficult, but thrive on your despair. The Lisa games want to piss you off. The hours of punishment got to me in the end. I finished Lisa the Painful on painless mode. Even then, it's not an easy game, but it makes the difficulty much more manageable. Lisa the Joyful doesn't have an easy mode, so the fights were longer, there were more game overs, and I spammed the same couple of moves all the time because they were the only ones that didn't result in instant failure. Mental checkouts were the norm. One could argue the tedium is there to enhance the experience, to drive home the themes of the narrative. And the story of Lisa delves into pretty harsh topics: trauma, despair, violence, depression, abuse of many kinds. But there is a point when tedium no longer works as a narrative tool and becomes just tedious. And I've yet to find a game where the tedious gameplay was a strength for the story instead of a detriment. And Lisa was no different. The humor, the plot points, the music, the difficult choices, they still landed. Because they were excellent, not because I'd suffered for them. Lisa was incredible despite its tedium, not because of it. "200 hours is a lot of time. That's 400 days of half an hour playdates with your kid, 2 months worth of quality time with your partner, 35 dinner parties with your friends, 100 walks, 200 long talks with your daughter. Which of these is so insignificant you'd rather play some Dark Souls 2? 15 hours of Omori, 8 hours of Hellblade, dozen for Lisa, 40 for Dark Souls 2 and 150 hours of Elden Ring. How much of it was something you wanted to do, things you hoped to spend your finite life with? How much of it did you just grind through with a tense jaw in hopes of something worthy of the time spent? Lisa, Hellblade, Bramble, Dark Souls 2 or Omori couldn't have been movies, poems, novels or series of sculptures, but perhaps they could have been a little less like video games. Even the expanded inventory patch doesn't fix the problem of level design. No matter how optimized you play, You fight the same enemies, run the same corridors. It's hard to appreciate the atmosphere of Signalis because why was it necessary to add these puzzle segments to a game? Do these jagged pauses in the story somehow enhance the experience? Rain World asks an inordinate amount of patience from the player. To experience its world, themes and atmosphere, you have to put up an excruciating amount of torment. I'm not sure I can stomach dozens of puzzles I loathe to get to the bits people seem to be thrilled about. This game should be my all-time favorite, but for some reason I struggle. Unfortunately, Faith doesn't only retain the aesthetics of the 80s, but also gameplay. It does get rough at times when the game is arbitrarily harsh by design. This, combined with technical difficulties due to a botched port, make Pathologic 2 almost impossible to enjoy. It's a shame the tensest moments of Mouthwashing are also its weakest. For some reason the story feels from time to time the need to video game things up. And 7 retries later, every scrap of tension and momentum is gone. This video began as a sort of breakup letter for video games. And I was so sure I had something profound to say on the subject, some sort of revelation. But the more I wrote, more segments I added, all the more it felt like I nitpicked about the grammar of a love letter. All these games are of different genres, styles, budgets, tiers of commercial success. What they share is regality. They are loaded masterpieces of the medium, and yet I struggle to finish any of them. The common problem with all these games is me. It's as if I squeeze and squeeze, try to extract every bit of something out. And this has distorted how I enjoy many things. If the difference between a poison and an antidote is the dosage, it's clear I've gone too far. This is not who I want to be. Someone so afraid of time slipping by, he can't but obsess of time slipping by. But it's not just existential angst. It's this YouTube gig, the whole making videos thing. I've conditioned myself to always prowl the next good idea, the missing piece. And if I don't find that, well, that's just time wasted, right? I take what has demanded years of someone's life to craft and then count all the ways it fails to be what I wanted it to be. I may play video games more than ever, but my sense of play is long gone. I've taken what I love and twisted it into this misshapen husk of utility. And from this husk, I no longer recognize what's important. Behind these things are not just shallow corporate interests, pay limitation and committee-sanctioned endeavors for mass appeal, but people who poured months, years of their only life to give birth to something which wasn't before. Who am I to state that passion was misplaced or somehow missed its mark? In traditional forms of drama, there's but the story, the dance, the picture, the images and words our brain reconstructs as a narrative, the sounds and notes that make up a song. In games, we are granted an in-between, a liminal space other forms of drama shedded away decades, centuries, even millennia ago. A state between the points of drama, where we can remain marooned from time. And while the space is often filled with content, menial tasks and tedious repetition, it's also something more. Not just content, but context. And while it's certainly not the most optimized or efficient way to tell a story, it might just be the most emotionally resonant. What if all this fluff, all the extra dungeons, the drawn-out gameplay, carbon copy solutions, is but passion and love that struggles to let go. And perhaps sometimes that love fails to move on, even when it's time. One can hardly fault another for unwillingness to let go. It is one of our most human struggles. All our lives we struggle to let go of things we love. Would it be so weird we'd do the same for video games? From the first moments, it's clear I'll never want to finish Neva. Not because the game doesn't take my breath away. It does. Nor because I wouldn't want to experience every moment in this beautiful world. I do. But every step, every moment in this game bears the strange weight of inevitability. Every step is counted. Every moment accounted for. We live through seasons stolen from time. Every puzzle, gauntlet, boss battle brings me towards what I won't confront. Neva begins like all great stories do, and I know it will end the same way. It's not more I need, more content, more time. What I want is a bulwark, something to stand between me and what is to come when the last puzzle has been solved, the final enemy defeated. I just want to stay, remain with this small creature fate thrusted in my arms to shepherd. This world will hurt her, break her, lay its corrupted tendrils on her pure white fur, and I will have to let that happen. I must let this world have her. One blink and she's grown up. I close my eyes and the story is a little closer to its end. And I know how this story ends, like all great stories do. All lives are lost, all hearts are broken. But not yet. That's all I ask for. But this world pleads, it screams to my face. You can only move forward. No matter how much you want to cling to the moment, the sand will and must run out. You can't just remain. This is what the world screams to me, what all these worlds do. All childhoods must come to an end. If you hold on to a fire, you'll stifle it. You can't sacrifice the world because you're unable to move on. You can't hide in dreams forever. Truth will find you, even if you hide yourself in hell. All things wither, all things die. Only so can they flourish for a while. To hold on is to stagnate, to rot, to hollow. And yet, we long to stay. And for a while we can, because these moments are marooned from time, frozen until we move forward. Here we are in the ever-present in-between, in small pockets beyond space and time, where the sand flows no further until we give permission. A liminal space between then and now, where we murder time to hide from the end. If I'd stay here, in this beautiful land with this pure creature, perhaps just this once time will forget and leave us be. Please. The landscape of my favorite games is formed from these kinds of stories. Moments I can find only from video games. A slow ascent towards a mountain, a descent into the unknown, a trek through a desolate world, a rumination on loss and our darkest hours, how we learn to withstand horrors beyond our ken, be they personal or existential. Stories that can't be told, only experienced. Not the most efficient way to tell a tale, but perhaps it is the most resonant. And in the end, that's all I care about. Moments I carry with me till the day my hourglass runs dry. I lay in a hospital bed. All sorts of tubes and contraptions protrude my body. My wife is there, my kids, their children, all gathered around me. It was a good life. I did well. I offer a frail hand to my daughter. I muster what strength I have left, gasp my very last breath, and whisper, my only regret is I didn't platinum Dark Souls 2. Thanks for watching.